And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The 9th anniversary of the September 11th attacks was marked on Saturday here in New York by the somber memorials and prayer services of years past. But this weekend's 9/11 anniversary commemoration was also marked by rising tensions, with thousands of people taking to the streets of Lower Manhattan in opposing rallies for and against the plans to build an Islamic community center 2 blocks from Ground Zero. The protests drew an array of people from around the country and the world. At the rally opposing the Islamic Community Center, former UN Ambassador John Bolton addressed the crowd by video. Meanwhile, the Dutch anti-Muslim politician Geert Wilders, who tried to ban the Quran in Holland, flew to New York and spoke before hundreds gathered to oppose the center's construction.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying, no mosque here.
It's this cemetery here. This religion wants a little respect from us. They should give us a little respect in return. It's a two-way street.
I'm opposed to the establishment of Sharia law, replacing our Constitution. I'm opposed to the Victory Mosque.
This is my country. I fought for it. And I think we're attacked, and that's why I'm here. This mosque is not going to be a religious mosque. It's going to be for terrorists to learn more about how to do wrong to this country. And all I would say, if they want to have a mosque here, we should have a Catholic church in Saudi Arabia.
Imam Faisal Raf, when he put the mosque on Ground Zero, he is provoking a response, and he understands what he's getting. But what he doesn't realize is he is awakened a sleeping giant. I think he never heard of Pearl Harbor, but he's going to understand the ramifications of it.
We must draw the line so that New York, rooted in Dutch tolerance, will never become new Mecca.
Also this weekend, Terry Jones, the Florida pastor who'd announced and then suspended plans to burn copies of the Quran, arrived in New York Friday seeking a meeting with Faisal Abdul-Rauf, the imam behind the proposed Muslim center. While he did not burn any Qurans, some imitators adopted his idea. Near the White House, 10 members of the anti-abortion group Operation Rescue tore pages from the Quran near Ground Zero. A man burned what appeared to be a page of the Quran. Meanwhile, thousands of supporters of the Islamic Community Center rallied at City Hall Park, 2 blocks from the proposed site. They voiced their support for the center and spoke out against anti-Muslim bigotry.
We were all attacked that day, and we all died that day, and we all responded that day.
We want justice! We want justice! Say no to hate! Say no to hate!
The shrill voices on the other side of this issue of Muslims being equated with terrorism, Islam being equated with terrorism, should not be the only voices heard on this important date of September 11th.
We believe in the core values of our democracy: pluralism, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. And you don't have it if all but one religion are welcome 2.5 blocks from Ground Zero. You don't have it if New York is a mosque-free zone.
The message that the world should take from this is that despite anybody claiming that America is wrecked with Islamophobia, it isn't. America is full. The majority of the people believe in religious liberty and believe in religious acceptance and inclusion, and that the majority of Americans honor our diversity.
That last voice, Minnesota Congressman Keith Ellison, speaking the night before at yet another vigil in support of the mosque, one of the many voices supporting the Park 51 project. I'm joined now by 2 guests who disagree about the proposed construction of the proposed Islamic Center. Tariq Ramadan is on the phone with us from Oxford, professor of contemporary Islamic studies at St. Anthony's College at Oxford University. He's the author of a number of influential books on Islam in Europe. He penned an op-ed in the Washington Post Sunday. In it, he makes the case that the center should be built elsewhere. He joins us on the phone from Oxford. Joining us on the phone here in New York is Mustafa Bayoumi, Associate Professor of English at Brooklyn College. He is the author of How Does It Feel to Be a Problem, Being Young and Arab in America, also editor of the new book, Midnight on the Mavi Marmara, The Attack on the Gaza Freedom Flotilla and How It Changed the Course of the Israel-Palestine Conflict. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Let's go first to Oxford to Professor Ramadan. Why do you feel, and it might surprise many, the op-ed piece that you wrote, that the community center should not be built near Ground Zero?
Look, first, of course, I'm aware of all the discussions, and I'm supporting anything which has to do with the rights of Muslims and American Muslims living in the States. I think that this is clear even in the op-ed that I wrote for the Washington Post. My position is that in this situation where we are struggling with something which is now built, is instrumentalized by, political forces in the state and trying just to make it a symbol, I would say that the Muslims should think about, the overall picture of their struggle for their rights and respect in the country. So in my position, if this is a symbol, and we have to listen to this collective sensitivity of the Americans after what happened in September the 11th, is to say, look, on that we can understand, we are not accepting anything which has to do with a free Muslim zone, but we should listen to what is said and what is felt. But at the same time, should be quite clear that our struggle for our rights, there are 20 mosques that are now facing problems in the local areas because people are rejecting. It's a very huge struggle, but sometimes we have to think about the symbol, and my position is, if this is possible, Muslims should think about, not being instrumentalized in the whole process by political forces, but say understanding the collective sensitivity and to go for the struggle and saying we are not going to accept America becoming a country which is have something which is an institutionalized discrimination and racism.
Professor Bayoumi, your response.
Well, I certainly, I certainly understand the desire to lower the temperature today on this hot-button issue. But I really think that we have to ask ourselves, what kind of society do we want to live in? Are we going to be a society that's ruled by our passions or by our principles? And I feel that if we adopt the view that we are willing to trade away the mosque to another location, then we're also willing to trade away the principle of the free exercise of religion for Muslim Americans. And that's true not just then for Muslim Americans, but really for all Americans. I feel that by now the issue has become so important that it has to be something that we understand as being a central question around our rights as a collective, as a nation. And I feel that there's something at stake here that is missed if we're only looking at being sensitive to what is a controversy that is fueled by outside forces.
Professor Ramadan.
If I may say something about this, because it's as if, it's a decision based on emotions, and something which is taking into account sensitivity is just emotion. It's exactly the opposite, in fact. I think that the whole issue, even by the people who are behind it from the very beginning, to build something which is $100 million there, I think that from the very beginning there is a trap here. And I would say that sometimes when we are dealing with emotions in the States, we have to rationally, reasonably take this into account and say, if this symbol is there, and that we can understand why the people are reacting in such a way, it's not to struggle for our rights. It's exactly the opposite. It's to take advantage of this situation by saying, okay, we get it, the emotional reactions here, and we respect that. But it means that everywhere in this country, for our rights, our respect, we should struggle, and we need to find people saying that there will be never Muslim-free zones in this country, and that we have to support all the mosques that should be built in the country. So the symbol of one should help us for the struggle of all the others. And I think that this is also something which is important. My fear today is to see Muslims reacting on a defensive way. These are our rights, not understanding that by being obsessed with this, they could miss the point of a rational struggle in the whole country.
I think it would go the other way around, unfortunately. I mean, I think that once the mosque, or it's not even a mosque, that's the other issue. It's an Islamic center. It's modeled on the 92nd Street Y. It's a cultural center. It's meant to be a place where people from all different faiths and all different backgrounds can come together. So, but once that location is moved, I think actually it becomes much easier to move every other Islamic center and mosque in the country, wherever that community is. If a new mosque wants to be built, the opposition can say, well, you know, in New York they moved it. Why can't you move it 5 blocks or 10 miles or over to the next town from here?
I don't think so. I really think that we have to take into account the fact that, yes, it's not ground zero. It was built, it's instrumentalized. But to use this situation by saying we understand what is happening in New York and the great symbolism of this we can accept that, and we can accept why 60% of the Americans, they are not all racist, and we can accept this. But it means at the same time that we are not bound down in any other cases. And this is something that I said in the op-ed, is that if possible, go for this. But I think that today the Muslims are trapped in something which is our rights, and we will go for it. I can understand this position, but I'm just a bit afraid that this is going to be instrumentalized, and is already instrumentalized from the very beginning, because we know that for 5 months no one was talking about the issue. And then it's coming, and this is instrumentalized by political forces, neocon and others. And I think that the Muslims may be sometimes more reasonable in the way they are looking at the issue.
We're going to break and then come back to this discussion. We're speaking to Professor Tariq Ramadan on the phone from Oxford University in Britain. And in studio here, Mustafa Bayoumi, Associate Professor at Brooklyn College, author of the book, How Does It Feel to Be a Problem Being Young and Arab in America? We'll be back with them in a minute. We're discussing the Islamic Cultural Center near Ground Zero, having a debate on this issue, not your typical debate. For example, those who have been protesting for and against outside the Cultural Center. But between Mustafa Bayoumi, Associate Professor at Brooklyn College, author of How Does It Feel to Be a Problem Being Young and Arab in America, and the leading Muslim scholar Tariq Ramadan of Oxford University. Actually, Professor Ramadan was supposed to take up a professorship at Notre Dame here in the United States. But days before he and his family were to move here, the Bush administration revoked his visa, and he was banned from the United States for 6 years. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton reinstated that visa recently, and he was able to come into the United States. But Professor Ramadan, in light of your own experiences in the United States, that might further surprise people about your position to say, well, at least for now, this cultural center shouldn't be built so close to Ground Zero.
Yes, I think that, you know, my position